So in today's video, we are going to talk about how to convert numbers from base 10 into other bases, and then doing the reverse, going from other bases back into base 10. So we'll be looking at pages 20 through 23 today. So a little bit of backtracking, because we already did talk about counting in a previous video. So we're just going back and finishing these pages up. So in talking about bases, we're looking at some manipulatives today. So first of all, we have what are known as base blocks. So maybe you're familiar with seeing these before in school. We have them for base 10 numbers. So for example, they look like this. So these are examples of units. So then, since these are base 10 blocks, if we took 10 of these units and put them together, we have this piece, which is known as a long. So you can count that there are 10 units that make a long. And then if we took 10 of these longs, we could make a flat. So a flat would be worth 100 units. Okay, so we have singles, so units, longs are worth 10, and the flat is worth 100. So we have these base blocks in all different types of bases. So let me push these to the side a little bit and show you we also have them for other bases. So I believe these are base 5 blocks, but we start with the units. And then the way we can tell is if we push these together, we should be able to make a long from them. Okay, so you'll notice these are base 5 blocks because it would take 5 units to make one long. And then if we actually pushed 5 longs together, they would be worth a flat. So a flat in this case in base 5 would be worth 25. So this is also similar to when we played our chip trading game. If you remember, we did a certain trade where yellow would be worth 1 point, and then blue in our particular game was either worth 3 points or 4 points, and then the green chip was worth either 9 or 16. So it's the same sort of idea. We have 1, 5, 25, just like we have ones, tens, hundreds. That's how we do place value. So let's take a look at page 20. Okay, I moved my pieces out of the way. All right, so on page 20, it says, if all of these drawings were traded in for units, how many would there be? Okay, so first of all, before we do that, I just want to talk about how you would write the appropriate number for each of these bases. So 1 through 6 is base 5. So we always write our number based on the place values that we have, or the pieces that we have. So we should notice in this one we have 1 flat, 1 long, and 1 unit. So we would write this as the number 1, 1, 1, and we're in base 5. So we write that word 5 next to it. For number 2, we have 4 units, 3 longs, and 1 flat. So we would call that 1 flat, 3 longs, 4 units. So this would represent the number 134. For number 3, we have 2 flats, 2 longs, and 3 units. So this would be the number 2, 2, 3 in base 5. Then number 4, we have a cube, a flat, no longs, and 2 units. So a cube would be formed from if we took 5 flats and stacked them on top of each other, that would form a cube. So the number representing number 4 would be 1 cube, 1 flat, no long, and 2 units. And we're still in base 5. So 1, 1, 0, 2. For number 5, we have 1 cube, no flats, so 0 flats, 4 longs, and 4 units. So 1044. And then finally, number 6, the number that represents that would be 2 cubes, 1 flat, 1 long, and no units. So 2110 in base 5. Okay, so let's go back to this question that it's asking. It said if all of these drawings were traded in for units, so notice I changed the word. I don't like to use singles because they're called units. How many would it be? So what this is asking is if we broke this down all the way into the individual unit cubes, how many unit cubes would we have? So that is the way that we can convert any base into a base 10 number. So it's all going to depend on which pieces you have and the value of those pieces. So for number 1, as we discussed, units, there's just 1 unit. So units are worth 1. So then how many units would a long be worth? So how many units does it take to make a long? Well, if we're in base 5, it should take 5 units to make a long. So just like in our number system, it takes 10 units to make a 10. So for base 5, it's going to take 5 units. So the long would be worth 5. Okay, and it's the same thing again, referring back to the chips. So if we had 5 yellow chips, they would trade in for 1 blue chip. So the blue chip was worth 5 points. It's the same idea. So then if the long is worth 5, then how many longs does it take to make a flat? Well, 5 longs make a flat. So 5 groups of 5. So a flat should be worth 25 little units if we broke them down into those little tiny squares. So how many units would we have? So there would be 25 plus 5 plus 1. So we would have 31 units. So that would be the base 10 number that is equivalent to the quantity 115. Okay. If we do this for number 2, we have 4 units. So we got 1, 1, 1, 1. Longs again are worth 5 apiece in base 5, so 5, 5, and 5. And then the flat is worth 25. So if we add all those up, put little addition signs in here, what would we have? So we'd have 25, 30, 35, 44. So there would be 44 units. Just going to circle these. So that would be the number 4. Oh, sorry, 44. So take a minute and try to see if you can figure out 3, 4, 5, and 6 on your own. And pause the video, and then when you're done, start the video again, and then check your answers. Okay, we're back. So number 3, we have 1, 1, 1, so 5, 5, 25, and 25. So number 3 would be 50, 55, 60, 63. So 63 units. For number 4, so we'd have a 1, there's a 25. And then we haven't talked about the cube yet. So I said it would take 5 flats to make a cube. So 5 groups of 25 would be 125. So 125 plus 25, so 150 plus 2 more. So this would be 152. Number 5, we have 4 ones. We have 5, 5, 5, and 5. And then again, 125. So 125, so 130, 135, 140, 145, 46, 47, 48, 49. So 149 for this one. And then number 6, we have 5, 25, 125, 125. So 125, 125 would be 250, plus 25 more would be 275, plus 5 more, so 280. Okay. So hopefully you got those 4 correct when you tried them. So then let's see. Question number 7. All of these problems represent changing a number from base 5 to base 10. So describe that process. So what are we doing? We are just taking the place value of each piece and then adding them all together. So add the place value of each piece. So let's write each base block instead of piece, so you'll know what you're referring to later. So we just add the place value of each base block, get that total, and that would be our base 10 number. All right, so now what if we switched to base 4? So base 4 would now mean that we would have our units, and this time it would only take 4 units to make a long. It would take 4 longs to make a flat, and then it would take 4 flats to make a cube. So we have the same base blocks. They are just worth a different value because we're now working in a different base. So if we look at number 8, first of all, what base 4 number is being represented in this picture? This is the number, let me write off to the side. So 2 flats, 1 long, 3 units, and we're now in base 4, so that is 213 base 4. And then what about number 9? This is 1 cube, 3 flats, 2 longs and 2 units, so 1322 in base 4. All right, so how do we again convert these into units? What would the base 10 number be if we broke them down into units? So think about base 4 again. We played a chip trading game with base 4, so maybe we can remember what the values are. So each of our units are worth 1. So then it takes 4 units to make a long. So a long will be worth 4 units. That would be like the blue chip, 4 points. And then it's going to take 4 longs to make a flat. So 4 groups of 4. So a flat would be worth 16. So if you can try and envision, maybe I'll draw one. So that would be the 4 longs, and if we chop them into 4, then you can see where the 16 and the 4 are coming from. All right, so just like we did before, what's the grand total? So 16 and 16, 32, plus 4 more is 36, 37, 38, 39. So this is equivalent to 39 in base 10. And then for number 9, let's see, we have 2 units, so 1 apiece. Longs would be worth 4 apiece. Flats, 4 4s, so 16 apiece. And then the cube. So a cube would be 4 flats would make a cube, so 4 groups of 16, so that should be 64. Okay, so if we add all of that up, what is that going to be? Just when I break out my calculator. So 64 plus 16 plus 16 plus 16 plus 4 plus 4 plus 1 plus 1. I'm getting 122. So 1322 in base 4 is equivalent to 122 units. Okay, so number 10. Again, let's see. First of all, how would we write this number as a base 4 number? So we would have 2 cubes, 1 flat, 1 long, 3 units. Okay. And then number 11. So you might get tempted to write this. So we have 4 cubes, no flats, no longs, no units, and we're in base 4. However, there is a problem with writing this, and hopefully you know what that problem is. So if you remember when we played our chip trading games, what happens anytime you get 4 of something? That means you have to trade it in for the next place value. So this would essentially, if we were playing our chip game, this would be like I had 4 red chips. So we didn't talk about what goes beyond red, but we would be trading 4 red chips in for the next thing, which would be, in our game, would be a black chip, which I said we didn't talk about. So essentially what you do here is if you have a group of 4, it's essentially like having a bag of 4 cubes. There's no real great way to describe that type of grouping. So instead of writing 4000, it would actually need to be one group or one bag of 4 cubes, No individual cubes, no flats, no longs, no units. Okay. So it would be a grouping. So 1, 0, 0, 0, 4. So hopefully you remember you can't have any number that is the same as the base. It always has to be a number smaller than the base. Okay, so then what if these were individual units? What would that look like? So 1 apiece. The long would be worth 4. The flat would be worth 16. And then we said cubes are 64. So what is that total? So 64 plus, oops, plus 64, so 128 plus 16 more is 144, plus 4 is 148, plus 3 more. So this would be equivalent to 151. And then over here, if each cube is worth 64 apiece, so 64 4 times, so 256 would be those units. Describing how changing a base 4 number to base 10 is the same or different as changing a base 5 number to base 10. It's the same process, so we're still trying to find the value of each base block. However, the only thing that's changed is the value of the base block. So we had 1, 4, 16, 64 with base 4 as opposed to base 5, which was 1, 5, 25, 125. So I don't care about 13 and 14. So moving on to page 22. So we tried to do this with like a picture with a manipulative. So now the challenge is, can you do this without necessarily drawing a picture? That's coming later. So, or I should say, we had the picture and we wrote the number. So now we're getting asked to start with the number, then draw the picture, and then do the conversion. So with number 1 on page 22, 1, 2, and base 3. What would that look like in terms of base block? That tells us we have 1 long, 2 units. So if it's base 3, units would be worth 1 apiece. And then it would take 3 units to make the long, so it would be worth 3. So that would be 3, 4, 5. So this is equivalent to 5 in base 10. For B, 2, 0 in base 6. So 2, 0 would mean we have 2 longs, no units. So in base 6, that means we would have 6 units would make a long, 6 longs would make the flat. So each of these would be worth 6 apiece. So grand total, that would be 12 in base 10. All right, so again, take a minute, see if you can figure out the next 4. So we have a base 4, a base 3, a base 5, and a base 4. See if you can draw a picture and then figure out what they are in base 10. So pause the video and then unpause it when you're finished to check your work. Okay. So for C, 1, 2, 3 in base 4, that would tell us we have 1 flat, 2 longs, and 4 units. So that would be 1 apiece. And then in base 4, it would take 4 units to make a long. So each long is 4. And then 4 longs would make a flat. So a flat would be worth 16. So 16 plus 4, so 20, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28 would be the base 10 number. For D, 2, 1, 0 means I have 2 flats, 1 long, and no units. So units would be worth 1. It would take 3 of them to make a long, so a long in this case would be worth 3. And then 3 longs would make a flat, so 3 threes means the flat is worth 9 each. So that would be 18, 19, 20, 21 for our base 10 number. E, let's see, this would be a cube, 2 flats, no longs, and 3 units. Base 10, so, or sorry, base 5, so units are worth 1. So in base 5, a long would be worth 5. So then 5 longs would make a flat. So 5, 5, so these are 25. And then 5 flats make a cube. So 5, 25, so that's 125. So 125, so 150, 175, 176, 77, 78. So this would be 178. And then F2101 in base 4. So 2 cubes, 1 flat, no longs, and 1 unit. So the picture would look like that. So in base 4, let's see, units are 1. 4 units make a long, so a long would be worth 4. 4 longs would make a flat, so 4 fours, so those are 16 again. And then 4 flats make a cube, so 4 16s, so 64s again. So let's see, 128, so 138, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44. So 145 should be the grand total. So that is the base 10 number for that one. Okay. Now, on the bottom, we are now going in reverse. What if I had given you this number, if a certain number of just units, and we need to trade them in for as big as possible to figure out what the base number is going to be. So for these, I like to make a chart. So, sorry, I'm moving my paper around. All right, so it says 17 units. If we had 17 little units and we want to convert them into base 7, so what base blocks would we end up having? So what I like to do is make a chart, as I said. So you think about the pieces. We have units, longs, and flats. So if we're in base 7, I'll try and zoom in on this a little bit for you. Okay, so if we're in base 7, what are these pieces actually worth? So a unit would be worth 1. It would take 7 units to make a long, so a long would be worth 7. And then it would take 7 longs to make a flat. So 7, 7, so that's 49. So then what I like to do is, if I have 7 units, what kind of pieces could I make? So I wouldn't be able to make a flat because a flat uses 49 units and I only have 17. It takes 7 units to make a long. So how many longs could I make from 17? Well, I could make 2 of them, because that uses up 14 units, and then I would still have 3 units left. So 17 is equal to the number 2, 3, base 7. Okay. It's also asking us in this problem to draw what the base blocks would look like for this number. So that would just look like 2 longs and 3 units. That would be the picture associated. Okay. So what about B? If we think about base 9, units would be worth 1. Longs would be worth 9. So it takes 9 units to make a long. And then 9 longs make a flat. So 9 nines, a flat would be 81. Again, if I only have 23 units to work with, I obviously can't make a flat. So how many longs could I make? I should be able to make 2. Because that would be 18, and then I would have how many still left over as single units. So 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, so 5 of them. So 23 is the same as 2, 5 in base 9. So picture 2 longs with 5 units. Okay. All right, what about C? 50 units in base 12. So what does base 12 look like? Units are worth 1. Longs are worth 12. So 12 units make a long. And then a flat would be 12 12s. So a flat would be 144, which is going to be way too big if we only have 50. Okay, so how many longs would I be able to make from 50 units? So that should be 4, because I would use 48 of the units. And then we would have 2 left over. So 50 in base 10 is equivalent to 42 in base 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4 with 2 units. Okay. Take a minute and try these last 3 on your own and pause the video and then unpause it when you are finished just to check. Okay. So D, 15 units for base 3. So in base 3, let's see, units are worth 1, longs are worth 3, a flat would be 9, and then a cube would be 27. So we can't make a cube. How many flats could you make? You could make 1 flat. That would leave you with 6 units. So from 6 units, you should be able to make 2 longs. And then you're done. So you would have no units left over. So 15 is equivalent to the number 120 in base 3. And if you remember the other day when we were counting, let's just check. 15, if you look, 15 is the number 120, which is what we just got over here. So we're doing well. Okay, 27 units for base 5. Oh, I forgot to draw a picture of this one. So it's 1 flat, 2 longs, no units. So there's the picture of 120. Let's see, units, 1 long, 5 flat, 25. So with 27, you'd be able to make 1 flat. You would have 2 units left over, so you could make no longs and then have 2 units. So 102, which would look like a flat and 2 units. And then 38 in base 3. Let's see. So I had this above. So 1, 3, 9, 27, and then the next place value, the bag, would be 81. So I would be able to make 1 cube from 27. That would leave me with 11. So if I had 11 units left, I could make 1 flat. That would leave me with 2 units. So I wouldn't be able to make any longs, but I would have 2 units left over. So 1102 in base 3. And then finally, a picture of that would be cube, flat, 2 units. Okay. All right. So there's some conversions. All right, and then we have this last little bit on page 23. I know this video is long. Thanks for hanging in with me. Now just converting, trying to do this, sorry, trying to do this without drawing pictures. So you'll notice that these kind of alternate. So A, C, E, and G start with some base going to base 10. And then B, D, F, and H go from 10 into a different base. So let's start with A, C, E, G, going from a base to a base 10. That's what we did to begin with. So this is when we have to figure out what the place value is. So in base 5, essentially we have 2 units, no longs, and 3 flats. So if you remember in base 5, 3 flats, flats are worth 25 apiece. We have no longs, and then we have 2 units. Units are worth 1 apiece. So that would be 75, 76, so 77. So that would be equivalent to 77. So I'm just trying to shorthand this without necessarily drawing pictures. Okay, with C, we have 3 flats, 2 longs, and no units. So if it helps, let's see what each of these are. So we have none of the units. Units are worth 1. we have 2 longs. Longs in base 6 are worth 6 apiece. And then flats in base 6, so 6 sixes, so that would be worth 36 apiece. So we have 3 36s. What is that? That's 108 plus 2 sixes, so 12, and nothing else. So this would be the number 120. For E, okay, we have 1 flat, 2 longs. Sorry, let me start that over. We have 1 cube, 2 flats, no longs, 4 units, and we are in base 8. So units would be worth 1 apiece. So longs, it would take 8 units to make a long. So a long, if we had any, would be worth 8 in base 8. 8 eighths would make a flat, so a flat would be worth 64. So then our cube, 8 flats would make a cube, so 8 groups of 64 is going to be 512. Okay, so if we add this all up, so we have a 512, we have 2 64 pieces, we have no 8-point pieces, and then we have 4 units. So that should be a grand total of 644 if my calculator is correct. And then finally, let's see, 2045 in base 9. So 2 cubes, flats, 4 longs, 5 units. So in base 9, units would be worth 1 apiece. 4 longs would be worth 9 apiece, so we have 4 of those. 9 nines would make a flat, so a flat would be worth 81. And then, cubes, 9 81s, so 9 flats, 9 times 81. So that would be a 729. So we add all of those pieces together. Okay, so let's see. What is it? 2 times 729, so 1458 plus 36. Oh, let me start over. Typing in my calculator wrong. Okay, plus 36 plus 5. So that should come out to be 1499. Okay, so I did those without the base black pieces, but we talked about the values. Okay, so then B, D, F, and H are where we're going from 10 into a particular base. So this is where we make our chart and we think about the place value. If we had 126 little units, what pieces would they trade into B in order to make base 5 pieces? So let me make a chart over here. So I'm not going to write out the pieces again, just the values of the pieces. So if we had 126 units, we'd be able to make 1 cube in base 5, and then we would just have 1 unit left over. So that would be 1001. For D, we're going into base 6. So units are worth 1, longs would be worth 6, flats would be worth 36, and let's see, a cube would be 36 times 6, that would be 216, which is going to be too big. So we can't make any cubes, so how many flats that are worth 36 could be made from 206? So that should be 5 of them. How many units is that? So that's 180 units. So if we keep a running total, we started with 206. We just used 180 to make our flats. So how many are we left with? 26. So then how many longs could we make from 26 units if those are 6 apiece? That should be 4 because that would be 24. So we have 2 left over. So 206 in base 10 should be the number 542 in base 6. 407 into base 8. Let me jump down here a little bit so where there's more room. So again, we have units. It would take 8 units to make a long, so longs would be 8. 8 eighths, so 64, and then 64 times 8. So a cube would be 512, which we don't have that many. So we can't make any cubes, but if we had 407 units, how many flats could we make if those are 64 apiece? Looks like 6. So 64 times 6, that's 384. So if we had 407 and then we just used 834, that would leave us with 23 units. So if you had 23 units, how many longs could you make if they're 8 apiece? That should be just 2. So that would be 16 of them. And then 23 minus 16 leaves you with 7. So this should be the number 627. Okay. And then finally 555 units converting into base 9. Try and do that right here. So 1, 9, 81. And then what was it? 729 from when we did this earlier? Yeah. 729, too large. So we can't make any cubes. How many flats can we make if flats are 81 apiece? So looks like that's going to be 6 of them. So 81 times 6 is 486. So we started with 555. We used up 486. So oh, I typed that in wrong. So 555 minus 486. How many do we still have left? So we have 69 left over. So how many longs, if those are 9 apiece, can we make from 69? That should be 7 of them because that would be 63. So then we would have 6 units left over. So 555 in base 10 should be the number 676 in base 9. We made it. Okay, so for homework, you are going to try some of these on your own. So there are 20 problems. So in the first 10, this is what we were just doing. This is a base 10 number. So if you had 122 little units and you traded them in for base 7 pieces, what pieces would you end up with? So this is where you make your little table. So try those 10. And then the next 10 are going from a base back to the base 10 number. So this is when we count how many pieces we have and the value of each of those pieces and total them all up to get a base 10 number. So you are trying page 24 on your own. I am just checking for correct answers. So if you want to show work, go right ahead. If you don't, if you just want to write the answer, that's fine. But you are going to take a picture of this and submit it into Canvas. Thanks for watching.